Hey, I'm Tyler, 22, and I've spent my whole life just outside Cleveland, Ohio. It's not exactly a thrilling place. Mostly you get rain, quaint coffee shops, and greenery stretching as far as the eye can see. I'm slogging through my third year of college, chasing a business degree I'm not even sure I want. My home's a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a roommate who's practically moved in with his girlfriend, so I've got the place to myself most days. To pay the rent and keep food in the fridge, I sling pizzas for a local spot. It's not a dream job, but it keeps me afloat. Honestly, I kinda dig the simplicity: cruise around, hand off a pie, and do it again. No stress, no chaos, just a steady rhythm. That day felt like any other. I had a packed delivery list and a nagging headache from binging a gritty true crime series way past midnight. I snatched my keys, threw on my faded hoodie, and stepped out into the usual dreary mist. The early stops were standard, nothing memorable: a rowdy family with kids bouncing off the walls, some teens who barely grunted in acknowledgement, and a dude who slipped me an oddly hefty tip. Then came my final drop of the shift, a large pepperoni loaded with extra cheese. The address was in one of those serene, high-end neighborhoods I hardly ever visit. I thought to myself, nice, smooth way to wrap up. I rolled up to this polished two-story home with a lawn so flawless it seemed artificial, like it belonged in an architectural digest. I strolled up to the door, pizza box in hand, gave the receipt a quick glance, and rapped on the door. When it swung open, I stopped dead. There stood a woman who could have graced the cover of a fashion magazine. She was maybe in her 40s, possibly younger, hard to pin down. Her auburn hair cascaded in gentle waves past her shoulders, and her emerald eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that felt like she saw right through me. She had this poised elegance that made the world around us blur for a moment. Dressed in a soft ivory sweater and dark jeans, nothing flashy, she somehow made it look effortlessly sophisticated. I coughed, fumbling my words. Your pizza, ma'am?" She flashed a deliberate, self-assured smile that caught me off guard, then took the box. Our fingers grazed ever so slightly, and it was like a spark shot through me. Tilting her head, she held my gaze and said in a calm, velvety tone, "If you've got the courage, stick around." My heart nearly leapt out of my ribcage. Was she messing with me or dead serious? I had no idea how to react. I just stood there, dumbstruck, like a deer in headlights. She radiated confidence, no hint of doubt or nerves. It was like she relished the clumsy silence I dragged in with me. My cheeks were burning, I could feel the heat. I let out a shaky chuckle, shook my head, and mumbled, I gotta run, more deliveries." She gave a small shrug, that knowing smile still playing on her lips like she'd predicted my response. "Your call," she said warmly, then stepped back. The door clicked shut. I lingered for a beat, catching my breath. Her words looped in my mind: "If you've got the courage, stick around." I hustled back to my car, kicking myself for acting so clumsy. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself it was nothing, just a bizarre, fleeting encounter. The rest of my shift passed in a fog. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smile, that voice. That night, I flopped onto my couch, but my brain wouldn't let her go. It was ridiculous. She was a random customer, a total stranger, older, and way out of my orbit. But that moment clung to me like static. The weeks that followed were uneventful: same old grind: classes, assignments, late-night delivery gigs, and reheated leftovers. I did my best to push that odd doorstep spark out of my head, but sometimes I'd drift off and hear her voice again: "If you've got the courage, stick around." I kept convincing myself it was a one-off, just some eccentric lady with a daring sense of humor. It didn't mean anything. Besides, she was way older, clearly in a different league. I was sure I'd never cross paths with her again. Then one Saturday afternoon, the sun finally punched through what felt like an eternity of overcast skies. I needed to clear my mind, so I headed for a walk in the park near campus. The air was brisk. Kids were running around. Couples wandered with their dogs, and faint laughter floated on the breeze. I was lost in my music, scrolling through playlists, when something made me halt. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted her. My heart stopped. It was her. I didn't know her name yet, but I was certain. That same fiery red hair gleaming in the sunlight. That same effortless poise in her movements, calm yet intentional, like she commanded every step. She wore a simple olive jacket, fitted jeans, and a scarf draped loosely around her neck. Panic hit me like a wave. I stared down at my phone, pretending to fiddle with it, like I hadn't just caught her eye. My pulse was racing. What were the odds? Cleveland's not small, but it's not a sprawling metropolis either. I told myself to keep moving, to avoid making a fool of myself. Just walk. But I couldn't. I kept stealing glances, and she noticed one. Our eyes locked, and she smiled. Not the teasing grin from the delivery, but a genuine, warm one. She started strolling toward me, unhurried, like time was on her side. I thought I might combust. I yanked out my earbuds, trying to play it cool. "Hey," she said, pausing a few feet away. "You seem familiar." I could barely string a sentence together. Yeah. I think I dropped off a pizza at your place a while back." Her eyes sparked with recognition. "Right, you're the bashful delivery guy." I wanted to vanish into the ground. "Yup, that's me," I muttered. Her laugh was soft, not mocking, but like she found my awkwardness endearing. "You didn't stick around." I shrugged, glancing down the path. "I wasn't sure if you meant it." "Oh, I meant it," she said, her voice steady and clear. Then she tilted her head and asked, "Got any plans right now?" I blinked, thrown off. Not really." "Then come walk with me." It wasn't a question. It was an invitation, delivered with a gentle confidence that didn't feel overbearing. I couldn't refuse. So, I matched her stride as we wandered down a trail framed by towering pines and vibrant tulips bursting with color. First, we kept it light. She asked about school, my job, my plans after graduation. I learned she was in publishing, doing freelance editing mostly. She'd relocated to Cleveland a few years back after a divorce, wanting a fresh start. Something about her put me at ease. The age gap didn't faze me. She was witty, sharp, and had this knack for listening like every word I said carried weight. Before long, I was laughing harder than I had in ages. She regaled me with funny tales of terrible manuscripts and writers who fancied themselves the next big thing. I shared stories of delivery mishaps, spilled sodas, mixed up orders, quirky customers. The more we walked, the more natural it felt. We paused by a small pond, where ducks glided lazily across the surface. She turned to me, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "You're not like most guys I run into," she said, her tone reflective. My face flushed. "Is that a good thing?" Her smile was gentle, almost secretive. "It's a great thing. Shy guys are charming." I was stunned. Compliments like that weren't exactly common for me, especially from someone like her. I stood there, awkwardly kicking a pebble. Then she, Danielle, I later learned, reached into her bag, pulled out a notepad, jotted something down, and handed me a scrap of paper. Her phone number. "I don't usually do this," she said, "but I've got a feeling you're worth it." I stared at the paper, speechless. Before I could cobble together a response, she leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to my cheek. "You decide what's next," she murmured. Then she turned and walked off, her graceful calm unshaken, vanishing down the path among the trees. I stood rooted to the spot, clutching that scrap of paper like it might disappear. Part of me wanted to run after her. Another part was paralyzed. Eventually, I trudged home, dazed, her number gripped tightly in my hand. For days, that little piece of paper sat on my nightstand. I pick it up, stare at the digits, then set it back down. I couldn't pinpoint why I hesitated. It wasn't her exactly, it was what calling her might lead to. I'd never had a real relationship, just fleeting college hookups. Danielle was different. She had this aura, assured, collected. She made me feel noticed, like I wasn't just some young guy faking adulthood. For almost a week, I couldn't muster the nerve to make the call. I drifted through classes and work like a shadow, late-night shifts, groggy mornings, just going through the motions. But my mind kept circling back to her, that radiant smile, the way she hung on my every word, the gentle peck on my cheek. At last, on a dreary Thursday night, I grabbed my phone, took a steadying breath, and punched in her number. My finger lingered over the call button for a solid minute. When I finally pressed it, the phone rang once, twice. By the third ring, my pulse was pounding. I nearly hung up. Then her voice came through, smooth and warm. "Hello?" I froze for a split second. "Hey, it's Tyler. From the park. And the pizza run." A brief pause, then that familiar laugh, the kind that sent a pleasant twist through my gut. "I was beginning to think you'd misplaced my number." I exhaled shakily. "Almost did," I confessed. "Glad you didn't," she replied, her tone soft and sincere. "How about grabbing dinner?" she suggested. My throat tightened. "With you?" "Yes, Tyler, with me," she said, her voice carrying a gentle smile. "Don't worry, I'm harmless." I let out a nervous chuckle, and just like that, some of the weight lifted from my shoulders. We settled on a cozy Italian place downtown for the next evening. That night, sleep was a lost cause. My brain churned through every possible scenario of how it might play out. By Friday, I spent nearly an hour in front of the mirror, agonizing over my outfit. Everything in my closet felt either too laid back or like I was overdoing it. Finally, I settled on dark jeans, a crisp button-up, and my one decent blazer. I got to the restaurant early, pacing outside, fiddling with my phone to keep my nerves in check. The damp pavement gleamed under the streetlights. Then I saw her, Danielle. She approached in a sleek black dress and a light taupe coat, her auburn hair tumbling in loose curls over her shoulders. Her effortless poise made everything else fade into the background. "You scrub up nicely," she teased as she neared. "You look incredible," I blurted, instantly wishing I'd sounded smoother. Her smile softened. "Thanks." Dinner felt like a scene from a film. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, no awkward silences, just genuine back and forth. We swapped stories about our favorite novels, tunes, and films that had left a mark. She shared tales of her travels, her passion for vintage jazz vinyls, and her dream of penning a book someday. I was captivated, hanging on her every word. She'd lived a fuller life than I had, yet she never made me feel small for it. At one point, I let slip a truth. "I was honestly terrified to call you." She tilted her head, curious. "Why's that?" "I didn't think you'd actually want to see me again." Danielle reached across the table, her hand resting lightly on mine. "Tyler," she said softly, "I wouldn't have given you my number if I wasn't interested." Her touch sent a warm spark through me. I managed a sheepish grin. After dinner, we opted for a stroll. Downtown Cleveland at night had a quiet charm, the low hum of traffic, neon lights reflecting off the misty air, couples wandering hand in hand. We stumbled across a small bookstore still open, ducked inside, and cracked up over the oddball titles on the shelves. Tom slipped away unnoticed. Eventually, the streets grew still, the night hushed. We found ourselves under a flickering street lamp, our breath visible in the chilly air. Danielle's gaze softened, more tender than I'd seen all evening. "I don't want a night to end," she murmured. I swallowed hard, at a loss for words. Then she added, "Come back to my place. We can talk or just see where the moment takes us. Only if you're okay with it." My nerves surged back like a tidal wave. I searched her eyes for any hint of pressure, but all I found was warmth and patience. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "If you've got the courage, stick around." Those words, echoes of that night at her door, hit me like a shock. I'll stay, I said quietly. She took my hand and we walked off into the night. My heart was racing, but it wasn't fear. Something was beginning, something I couldn't quite grasp, but I felt its weight. The walk to her apartment felt surreal, like a dream I didn't want to wake from. We didn't talk much, but the silence wasn't heavy. It was like we'd made an unspoken pact, one we weren't ready to disrupt. Her fingers brushed mine a few times before she laced them with mine, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. My chest fluttered the whole way. Her place was close, just a few blocks, in an old brick building with ivy snaking up its walls and warm light spilling from tall windows. We climbed a creaky staircase to the third floor. She unlocked her door with a quiet click. "Come on in," she said, her smile inviting. Her apartment was exactly what I'd pictured, cozy, welcoming, bathed in soft lamplight with a faint vanilla scent in the air. Books were scattered everywhere, piled on tables, crammed onto shelves, a few teetering on windowsills. A small record player sat in the corner next to a crate of vinyls. "Get comfy," Danielle said, kicking off her heels and hanging her coat. She slipped into the kitchen. I stood there for a moment, unsure, then drifted to the bookshelf, trailing my fingers along the spines. She returned with a mug. "Chamomile," she said with a playful grin. "Good for calming the jitters." I gave a shy smile. "That obvious, huh?" She laughed softly. "I've been around long enough to pick up on it." We settled on the couch, side by side, sipping tea and chatting quietly. Our talk meandered from beloved authors to childhood memories to cringeworthy stories we probably should have kept to ourselves but didn't. The tea's warmth, the faint jazz humming in the background, and the golden glow of the lamps wrapped us in a private world, just the two of us, shielded from everything else. Eventually, our words tapered off into silence. Danielle set her mug down, leaned back, and really studied me for a long, quiet moment. Her gaze didn't make me squirm. For once, I didn't want to look away. "Know why I asked you to stay that first night?" she asked softly. I shook my head slightly. "No clue." Her smile was faint, almost wistful. "Because you're genuine. You feel authentic, and I was intrigued." Her fingers grazed my arm, sending a shiver through me. I'm not sure who moved first, her or me. But the distance between us vanished, and our lips met in a gentle, tentative kiss. It wasn't hurried. It unfolded slowly, carefully, like we were both scared to shatter what we'd built. The world faded away. I won't lay out every detail of what followed, but it was unlike anything I'd ever known. It wasn't impulsive or merely physical. It was profound, raw, intimate, real. It felt like we'd both wandered into this moment at the perfect time, each carrying a quiet void that the other somehow filled. Hours passed unnoticed. Outside, the city grew quiet and soft rain pattered against the windows. I lay beside her, my head on her shoulder, listening to the steady cadence of her breathing. Danielle traced lazy patterns along my arm with her fingertips. Then she whispered, "You've given me something I thought I'd lost." I tilted my head to see her face, lit softly by the lamp. "What's that?" Her smile was small, her eyes half-lidded. "Hope." I didn't have words. I just let it settle because deep down I felt it too. Sleep eventually claimed us, our arms entwined, lulled by the rain and silence. Morning crept in softly, sunlight filtering through the curtains, bathing the room in a warm glow. I woke first, lying still, savoring the moment. Danielle's face was serene, almost ethereal. I didn't want to stir, afraid the magic might dissolve. She eventually stirred, her eyes fluttering open, and offered a drowsy smile. "Morning," she whispered. "Morning," I echoed. We didn't speak, just lingered in that flawless quiet, neither of us ready to let it go. After a while, Danielle sat up, slipping on a robe. "I'll brew some coffee," she said. Padding to the kitchen, I watched her move with that familiar ease, calm, graceful, at home. There was something comforting in that ordinary routine after the extraordinary night we'd shared. It felt real, yet fragile, like it could slip away if we weren't careful. We sat together, sipping coffee in near silence, just soft smiles, fleeting glances, and the ease of being close. I didn't ask what came next or what it all meant. I didn't want to spoil the morning with overthinking. I just wanted to stay in that moment as long as it lasted. Eventually, I glanced at the time and realized I had to leave. Danielle walked me to the door. "I'm glad you stayed," she said, her voice hushed. I nodded, feeling an odd pang in my chest I couldn't name. "So am I said. She leaned in, kissing me slowly, softly, holding the moment just a beat longer than necessary. Her hand lingered on my arm as she stepped back. "Give me a call?" she asked. "Absolutely," I whispered. I headed down the stairs and out into the still street, a goofy grin plastered on my face. I didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in forever, I felt truly alive. The days after were like a dream. I floated through classes and deliveries in a haze, buzzing with a quiet thrill. What happened with Danielle wasn't just about that night, it was the bond, the way she truly saw me, the comfort of her presence. I kept checking my phone, hoping her name would pop up. The next day, I texted her, "Had an incredible time. Can't wait to see you again." No reply. I told myself not to panic. Maybe work had her swamped. Maybe she needed space. 2 days turned into 4, then a week. I sent another text, more tentative, "Hey, hope you're okay. Thinking of you." Nothing. I tried calling, it rang until voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I called again the next day and the day after. Each time, just that hollow ring, that deafening silence, and with every unanswered call, the ache in my chest grew heavier. I replayed that night and the quiet morning after, over and over, hunting for a mistake, but it all felt so right, so natural. After nearly 2 weeks of radio silence, I couldn't handle the uncertainty. I had her address. I wasn't being obsessive, I told myself I just needed closure. On a cold, gray afternoon, I made my way back to her building. The same ivy clung to the brick, the same rickety stairs groaned underfoot. I stood before her door for an eternity, heart-thumping, summoning the courage to knock. When I did, no one answered. I waited, tried again. Nothing. I leaned close to the door, utter silence, no hint of life inside. Bewildered and desperate, I headed downstairs to the small office near the entrance. The building manager, a middle-aged guy with thick glasses and a clipboard, glanced up as I walked in. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm looking for Danielle, 3rd floor, corner unit." My voice wavered despite my effort to sound steady. He peered at his clipboard. "You mean Miss Nelson?" I nodded. "She moved out." My stomach plummeted. "What? When?" He flipped through papers. "About 10 days ago. Settled her account, turned in her keys. No forwarding address. That was it." I stood there, shell-shocked. "You sure?" I asked, already knowing the truth. He shrugged, his look apologetic. "Sorry, kid." I stumbled out, dazed. The streets felt bleaker, emptier. Even the sky seemed dimmer. I ended up across the street, staring up at her window, now vacant. She was gone. No note, no explanation, not even a farewell. I'd never know why. Had I screwed up? Was she spooked? Did she see me as a passing fling, something disposable? Those questions would stay unanswered. The days that followed were brutal. I kept checking my phone, foolishly hoping, knowing it was pointless. I wandered through our park again, clinging to the slim chance I'd spot her. She was nowhere. Eventually, I stopped searching, stopped wishing. I had to accept it. Danielle was a chapter in my story, not the whole book. The pain cut deeper than I could articulate. Yet, I didn't regret a single moment. What we shared was real, brief, yes, but real in the way that leaves a lasting imprint. In those few days, Danielle gave me more than most ever have. She made me feel visible. She taught me to take risks, to be bold. For the first time, she made me believe I was enough. One night, walking home under the soft glow of streetlights, something shifted inside me. I let go. A quiet, tender smile crept across my face as I thought of her. Maybe some people aren't meant to linger. Maybe they appear to show you what's out there. Love, even the fleeting kind, is still worth it. At my apartment door, I paused, looked up at the sky, and breathed, "Thank you, Danielle." Then I stepped inside, moving forward, her memory tucked safely within me.